All right, back on the morning drive, brought to you by Valdosta Toyota on this Friday morning. Weather outside right now, 58 degrees. Should be a nice weekend. Lots going on. Don't forget the Junior Service League's Tossed and Found Thrift Sale tomorrow, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Lowndes County Civic Center. All of the proceeds going to benefit the LAMP organization. So get out there and find a great deal tomorrow. Help out a great ministry at the same time. Speaking of helping people out, one of our friends in Atlanta, one of our great legislative contingent, Amy Carter, joining us via telephone from Atlanta. Amy, good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
We are doing just fine down here, and excited to hear what's going on in session. You, let's see, what's of the 40 days? How are we at halfway yet?
I think today is day 14.
Okay, so we're not quite halfway yet, but a lot of things going on up in Atlanta. I know you are involved in a lot of it. And several things we want to talk about this morning, Amy. But first of all, a lot of things going on with Valdosta State. I know, of course, a lot of people, I wouldn't say worried necessarily, but wondering what's going on with the money for the Valdosta State building and where it is in the budget. What's going on? What's the latest with that?
Well, first I want to say to you, Chris, thank you so very much. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for allowing me to call in while I am in Atlanta, and I can't be there with you in the studio. But, yes, it has been a busy week for us, especially in Valdosta and Lowndes County. Wednesday, we had our bird supper at the depot where our local folks come up and break bread basically with legislators and just really talk about what's going on in our community. But with that, of course, we had several representatives from Valdosta State University. We were able to get them in with the governor's folks, the Speaker of the House, the Lieutenant Governor, and Appropriations Chairman, everyone that they needed to see to really let the folks up here know how badly we need that building in Valdosta. I feel like we're in a pretty good place. It's a little different from the way it was reported, though. If you don't mind, I'd like to explain how it worked. Back in September, October, the Chancellor, being Hank Huckabee, he presented his budget to the governor's staff, and in his budget he had 6 construction projects or capital projects that he requested to be funded in the budget. Well, it ended up that the budget, because of the conservative side of the budget, which I do appreciate, although it was my building that that got cut, but because of the conservative nature of it, only 4 of those were funded in the governor's budget. And of course, you know, the economy, hopefully when it picks back up, we will see a lot more than that. But one of them being the Georgia Health Science University, which I struggle with. I still want to call it MCG. They're getting $28 million for a medical commons building, but they put up $15 million to go along with it. UGA, a vet medical teaching hospital, with $52 million, but they put up $15 million. Georgia Tech, an engineered biosystems building, they are getting $59 million, but they put up $33 million to go along with it. And then the other one is Georgia Gwinnett, which is the fastest growing college in the state. But, you know, they realized that South Georgia is not necessarily able to raise $33 million to go along with our building. But I feel like if we can get commitments by the state, the House, and the Senate, then I think the governor will be able to find a little money and help us out some. So we're looking.
Yeah, well, we realize what a tough position that is, and of course, you're right. It is almost apples and oranges because of what the metro area can do versus what we can do down here. And that's not to say, obviously, our things aren't important. We know how important they are, but and that's a tough thing when you're talking about making out a budget. I mean, everybody wants some, and you just got to fight for yours. And I know that's what's going on, but it is. I mean, I sympathize with those who are trying to make that budget because it is a tough thing.
Yes, it is.
So,
but it does help having the governor's ear. I'm very, very honored to serve as one of his 3 floor leaders in the House, and with that, you know, I'm able to speak to him a lot more closely and directly than most of the other legislators do. So he's keeping that in mind, and I hope he'll take care of our region.
Well, I'm sure that you are mentioning it every chance you get.
I do.
You're also a lot of other things going on, especially with small business. Talk a little bit about that going on.
Well, sure. I am on the Small Business Development and Job Creation Committee, and we have a focus of sustaining and growing small businesses in Georgia. Of course, that leads to creating job opportunities for Georgians. And what our speaker decided to do this year was to ask us to bring up our constituents and report directly to this committee. We want to hear from the small business owners. We want to hear about the burdensome regulations that are on the books that may be outdated or unnecessary. Yesterday was our first hearing. It started at 1 and lasted till after 4 o'clock. Our very own Roy Taylor was there in the audience, and he gave a passionate plea for us to make some changes to existing regulations, and we heard from many different areas of expertise. I mean, pharmacy and builders and all kinds of great ideas that sometimes the laws, there's so many of them, we just kind of get lost in trying to find the ones that are outdated, and we need to look at and try to fix. So this committee is a very important committee, and I'm just proud to be a part of that.
Well, we talk about small business a lot of times on the federal level, but certainly, at the state level, there are ways I know that we can improve. And when you talk about small business, I mean, really that's everybody. I mean, if you're an insurance salesman, if you are a farmer, it's all small business, and that is the backbone of America. So I think, obviously, anything that you can do to get back to real capitalism, the free market society of letting small businesses flourish so then they can do hiring and job creation and all that kind of thing, it comes from that exactly, I think, more than anything else.
Right. And there were several things mentioned yesterday that are federal regulations, but, we can do our part and help lobby our congressmen and our senators at the federal level and see if maybe we can get some of that fixed too.
Again, Amy Carter joining us on this Friday morning from Georgia's capital, and day 14 of the 40-day session. And as I did remind folks earlier, when we talk about the budget, they don't leave until they have a balanced budget. Unlike our good friends in Washington, they've got to balance that thing before they can leave Atlanta, and so that's why there is so much emphasis put on it, as it should be. So.
Right. And actually this morning, we start at 9, and we will be hopefully passing, it looks like it'll probably pass because it was unanimous yesterday in committee, we will be passing the 2012 amended budget. We pass 2 budgets every year. The amended 12, which started on July 1 of 2011, and it'll end on June 30th of 2012. But we will be passing that bill this morning. I think we'll probably start discussion on that bill around probably about 9:40. And pass that out of the House and send it on over to the Senate. And then next week we will start the 2013, which is the bigger budget.
Right.
And I'd love to share some info about it if you're interested.
Please, yes.
Okay. Well, I want to just mention again and again, because this is so important, that Georgia does remain one of the only 8 states with a AAA bond rating. And that's why the conservative bond package, which, VSU was left out of at the moment, is so important, because that's what they look at is our debt. And when we keep a conservative bond package, that keeps us on that AAA bond rating. And if we were at the AA, as many of our peers are, then we would have paid an additional $11 million over the life of the bonds sold last year alone. So it's very important for us to stay at that level.
Absolutely.
The rainy day fund, which I can remember back in 2007, it was around $1.5 billion with a B dollars. Well, this last year it was $116 million.
We had a lot of rainy days.
Yeah, we have had many rainy days through this recession, but at this point today, we're up to $328 million, and we have got to keep growing that for another, potential issue that we may have coming up, and so we're just trying to add as much as we can. Streamlining the state services, we're consolidating agencies this year, realigning them, just looking for efficiencies within our state government to save some money. Also, the per capita spending in the governor's budget recommendation for this budget will start next week is 20.5% less than the 2002 spending levels. We've reduced our workforce by 7.7% since 2001. Of course, the population continues to grow, and it's grown 1.5 million since that same time. So we're having to provide more service with fewer resources. But, you know, I'm real pleased with the budget. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting VSU back in it. But we really have a great governor who's doing good things and very wise spending, actually.
Well, again, we will keep our fingers crossed for that, but again, a lot goes into it, and so hopefully we will get good news on that in coming weeks. So, again, with small business and with the budget, that would fill the normal person's day, but there are other things you're actually working on as well, so a lot for you to pay attention to.
It is.
Now, let me ask you also, coming up, we're very excited about having all of our legislators, and when we talk about our Valdosta and Lowndes County area legislators, we're going to have Jason Shaw with us next week, and we're really appreciative of all of you being so accessible. We'll have Ellis Black, Senator Tim Golden, but really expands beyond that, because when we talk about things going on in South Georgia, it seems like from the folks that I talked to that it's not just those here in Lowndes County and Valdosta, Penny Houston and Tony McBrayer and John Bullock. It seems like everybody really does form kind of a South Georgia team, because we know that we're outnumbered inside the perimeter. So it takes a lot of cohesiveness, I guess, between legislators down here to kind of look out for each other's back. Is that right?
Oh, there's definitely a coalition. We have a rural caucus, and that caucus is the third largest caucus in the entire state caucus area, but only behind the two parties. But the coalition of rural, and you know, anything outside of metro is rural.
Sure.
And there are so many members who, you know, I mean, I'm actually in Valdosta, which is a metro area, but I'm a proud member of the caucus, and we stick together. We are outnumbered, and you know, the metro does kind of run the state. However, we have a strong presence. We know how to make the right connections, and the Speaker of the House, you know, is in rural Georgia too, and so he is a part of our team. And I mean, they understand. They completely understand what we're dealing with. And you know, I have really pushed, and I asked Dr. Levy to push too, the fact that VSU is a regional university, one of two, and we serve 41 counties in the South Georgia area. So that's something we need to keep pushing, that it's a big deal for 41 counties.
Absolutely.
And for health care, which is so desperately needed.
No doubt. I mean, and when you talk about the university system and post-secondary options, we've seen some of the efficiencies you're talking about in combining some of the colleges and universities across the state, not here in Valdosta, but we've seen it over in Douglas with South Georgia College and other parts of the state as well, to try to find some of those efficiencies. So that may, you know, I don't know what's going to come of that, but that could mean more people looking at Valdosta State as a great alternative.
Right.
So,
yeah,
a lot of things going on, I know, Amy, and we appreciate all the work that you've got going up there. And again, we look forward to checking back with you. And once we get you out of that bad Atlanta traffic and get you back down to God's country, we'll have you in studio one day.
That sounds great.
Amy Carter, live from Atlanta. And we know you're going to start up the session here in about 12 minutes, so we'll let you go. But Amy, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, Amy Carter, up in Atlanta, trying to get the work done for the folks in South Georgia. A lot on her plate, and she's very accessible. If you have a question or comment, you can find her email address, and we'll give that out to you as well. She'd love to hear from you. I know she mentioned the Bird Supper. We had a big group from Valdosta and Lowndes County go up to Atlanta this past week, and they're listen, I've talked to a lot of legislators in the past. They love when they get to see FaceTime with their contingency down in South Georgia. So if you ever get the opportunity, whether it's with a big group like the Bird Supper or just to go up there by yourself, when you're up there, check in with them, and they want to hear from you as well. So stay in touch with them. They want to know what's going on. We'll take a break and come back. Our strangest story of the day as we end it like Beckham is coming up next, and more of the Morning Drive right after this on News Talk 105.9. This is WVGA.